Good evening, Jane.
Good evening, David. Do you think we should do this? I'll do 16E79 and then I know you've got a terrible day tomorrow.
Well, I guess I can share the discussion of the link.
I think we can use, well, we'll get to that discussion under new business. I think
I
we're
mean,
about to start.
I think it's, first of all, it's a very thorough resolution, if you've seen it.
I haven't really had a chance to review it. My brother's in town.
Well, it came at the last minute. Thank you, Will or Saida or both of you. So in any event, we'll take them one at a time.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. A few notes for you, particularly if this is your first meeting with us. You'll notice that you are muted and unable to mute yourself. After the presentation, co-chairs may call on members of the public who wish to speak. You can ask to be recognized by raising your virtual hand, and you can do that by going to the reactions button at the bottom of your screen and selecting raise hand. It's important not to raise your physical hands or wave at the screen because we may not be able to see you among the participants. If you are on a phone, you can raise your hand by pressing *9 and *6 to unmute. Once you're recognized by a co-chair, I'll unmute you and you may be prompted to confirm unmuting on your device. If you're using an older version of Zoom, you can access the raise hand feature by clicking the participants button on the menu at the bottom of your screen and selecting raise hand. The chat function is available for technical support only, not to ask questions of the co-chairs. You can send me a chat if you're having any trouble and I can help walk you through any issues you may be having. Back to you, Jane and David.
Thank you so much, Saida. Good evening, everyone. This is the, my camera, a better place. The December meeting of the Landmarks Committee of Community Board 8. We have one resolution before us, and we have one very important item of new business, the 5G kiosk issue. So with that, we're going to go to the first application, 16 East 79th Street. We are here to vote on the context and appropriateness of the application before us. We will hear from the applicant, then the public, and then go into executive session and formulate a resolution that will be presented to our full board on Wednesday night at a Zoom meeting. We are here for the context and appropriateness of this application. Is the applicant here for 16 East 79th?
Yes, good evening.
Great. Well, this is 16 East 79th Street is a Warren and Wetmore building. It is within the Metropolitan Museum Historic District, and the issue is a master plan for a window replacement. So with that, please get started. You may want to screen share.
You should have the capability, Amelia.
Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Emilia Markowska. I will be your presenter today. Also here with me is Kirill Naidowski. He is representative from Pella Windows and Doors, and he's here to answer any technical questions that you might have. Thank you for your attention. I will start with first, the location, as you mentioned, 16 East 79th Street. This is a window replacement master plan. Hold on a second. Okay. LPC designation map and then Metropolitan Museum Historic District outline with the exact location being marked with red here. And then large plan, part of the designation report. As you mentioned, this is a historic building. It's a townhouse designed by Warren and Wetmore in 1901, 1903. This picture dates from around 1908 and shows the historic windows, which are casement windows on the first, second, third, and fourth floor. Also, we can see here that the historic windows had light color. Next page, this is around 1911 year, and already a few years later, we can see there were some changes to the window configuration. The most prominent one being the second floor, which has transom and also square lights. The third and the fourth floor remain casement windows. Next, this is a window tax photo from the 40s. And here there are like some changes to the facade. One of them being the portico, which is no longer there, but also, as you can see, the window configuration changed. Most obvious being the third and the fourth floor being double hung windows, and the color also changed to dark color. This is also acknowledged in the designation report where they mentioned the double hung windows on the third floor. And this is the existing configuration that matches the 9040 photos with double hung on the third and on the fourth floor. We wanted to replace the windows to match the tax photos, but the LPC preservationist informed us that these are not historic windows, and we would have to take that into consideration when replacing the windows. This is a photo view from Madison Avenue to kind of have an idea of what's visible from this point of view. So I will show you some photos from other buildings built in the Neo-Georgian style, the same style the townhouse on 16 East 79th Street is. So typically, the ground floor is limestone, and then there is a brick facade. The windows are typically light color, and the window configuration typically is double hung windows with 6/6 or 9/6, 9/9 configuration, depending on the building, depending on the module. So this is a typical example at Assume School or former Hangar Club on the 63rd Street. Architect is Cross and Cross. It was built around 1930. As you can see here, this is a typical example. They have 9/9 configuration windows on the first floor, 9/6 on the second, and 6/6 on the third floor. This is the Hardware Club. Also, you can see here, first, second, third floor, they all have double hung windows with a 6/6 or 9/9 window configuration. This was built by McKim, Mead and White a little earlier at the end of 19th century, and then 1903 there was major renovation. This is also another example on the 38 East 63rd Street. Similarly, like the other examples, you can see here they have 9/9 windows on the first floor, second 6/6, same third and the fourth floor. And also the color of the window is white or light color. Same thing here, similar example. This is Lynx Club, 62nd Street, townhouse built in 1902 in Neo-Georgian style. We have double hung windows on the first, second, and third floor. And yet another example. This is 11 West 54th Street, also building by McKim, Mead and White, built at the end of the 19th century with double hung windows on the second, third, and fourth floor. So I will show you also pictures of these are the existing windows at our building, and as you can see, they are not in good condition. They need to be replaced. What we are proposing here, basically, with this master plan, is replacement on the windows on the basement level, first, second, third, and fourth floor. This is the existing configuration. As I mentioned before, has casement windows on the first and second floor, and double hung windows basement level, third and fourth floor. This also matches the tax photo from the 40s. So it's been this window configuration has been there for a while. What we are proposing is double hung windows on all levels. So we already have double hung windows on the basement level, 3rd and 4th floor, but we are proposing double hung windows on all levels. And the reason being is, first, from a functional perspective, this is no longer a townhouse. This is being built, this being used as office space. So from that point of view, it would be more useful to have double hung windows. Also, we are proposing 6/6 and 9/12 configuration to kind of match the Neo-Georgian style. And we are also proposing a change in color, a bright light color to match the typical historic Neo-Georgian style. These are building elevations from the existing and proposed. And now we're showing each window one by one, existing, proposed, and a photo of the window. This is the 4th floor, double hung window. We are proposing double hung again, but with 6/6 configuration. This is 3rd floor, same thing here, double hung window. We are also proposing double hung, but with 6/6 configuration. Next, this is the 1st floor. This is one of the bigger changes. So casement windows, we are proposing double hung windows. And because of the height of the window, we are proposing a 9/12 configuration. This is the 1st floor. Also casement windows, we are proposing double hung windows. We are also keeping the historic iron bars. They are to remain. Actually, we're not proposing the historic are to remain. And also the basement level. We are proposing also double hung windows here with 6/6 configuration. The historic bars are also here to remain. And next, these are all architectural details. If you have any questions regarding them, we will answer them at the end of this presentation. Last slide, this is the proposed color. We communicated with the LPC preservation regarding the color. They were okay with this color, and we are showing it next to the limestone facade, but also the current facade is painted. This is the paint color, and this is some places where it has been revealed. The reason being, we want this color to work with both, because down the line, the owner intends to remove the paint and reveal the original limestone facade. Thank you all. This is the end of the presentation.
David, I think Jane has gotten, oh, okay. Not sure. Maybe she got kicked off.
Yeah.
Sorry, everyone.
Okay. No problem.
Okay, so I guess that the applicant just wants to change all the windows to 6/6s and some 9/12s. Is there anyone from the public who wants to speak to the application? Okay, we're going to go to the committee. Saida, maybe you could call them in alphabetical order to start.
Sure thing. Elizabeth Ashby, confirm unmuting.
I would like again to see the original windows, but this seems to me to be a very, very good proposal, but I just want to have another look at the original windows.
I will just share my screen. So
Original, not existing.
yes, these are the original, and they are casement windows on all floors, which is not typical for Neo-Georgian style. This is not a typical example. And Next slide is also like a few years later. As you can see here, they already changed them. They have transoms on the first and the second floor, and they have square lights on the first floor as well.
Uh-huh. Okay, thank you very much. Yes, I think this is a very fine neo-Georgian house. I'm very fond of that period. And I think bringing back the texture of the multi-pane windows makes an enormous difference to this. So I'm sorry you're not going to bring back that bit, the original doorway, and a little more decorative bits, but I think you've done a very good job, and I like bringing back the light color. I like bringing back the texture, and I think this is a very good proposal.
Thank you.
Gail? Gail, you're up. We can't hear you if you're speaking. Okay, we can come back to Gail. Michelle?
Yeah, thank you. No, this is a terrific, good presentation and a terrific change. Two questions. Are the windows, what are they made out of? Wood or aluminum or what?
The original are wood. What we are proposing is aluminum clad.
Oh, that's unfortunate. But are you able to get the same profile with the aluminum clad?
Yes. So we were very careful with developing the details. We worked with technical staff from Pella to develop the details to kind of have the minimum impact on the profile and yet be in line with the Neo-Georgian style. We are keeping the rough openings. We're not changing the rough openings, so they remain the same.
Yeah, well, Pella doesn't have a wood option, if I'm correct, right?
I'm not sure if they do have.
Okay, all right. That's unfortunate. However, are you doing nothing with the door?
No, the door is not part of the master plan. Also, the doors on the last floor, we're also not including those. They're not visible from public thoroughfare either.
Are you doing this on the rear of the building as well?
No, just the front facade.
So you're leaving the rear of the building the way it is?
Yes.
All right. Okay, well, that's not really a master plan in the sense that if anything happens to those windows in the back and you want to, they need replacement, will you use the front as a guide?
No, they would be treated differently. There is different guidelines for rear windows, so we would need another master plan for those. That would be a different application and different process.
Okay, well, too bad it can't be done at the same time. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thanks, Michelle. I'm going to try Gail again. Gail, confirm unmuting. Okay, we're going to go to Marco.
Thank you. I have a question. You said because of the functionality of the interior space from residential to commercial, it makes more sense to have a double hung. Is that the rationality?
Yes, I believe the current casement windows, they're not as functional as double hung windows would be, especially because they need to place the AC units, and it's really hard to do that with casement windows.
So you're still planning to put on the facade the AC units, is that correct?
Already currently on the facade.
Yeah, I know that, but you still put it over there back, or you're removing?
I'm not sure what the owner intends to do or the tenants intends to do that in like longer run. For now, that's the case, but I'm not sure what the plan is long run.
Well, I'm going to say that the double hand 6/6 or 9/6, it makes a lot of sense with the style. However, the architect have a specific idea for this project, and this is where he is proposing, or he built, or in his design as a casement window. I mean, my impression is I prefer to maintain the original condition, even though that probably contradicts the style. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marco. Elizabeth has a hand raised.
Why don't we go back to Elizabeth after we run through the committee, the other committee members? Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Saida.
No problem. Okay, let's go to John McClement. You can confirm everything, John.
I really don't have any opinion on this. I'm not a member of the committee. I was just observing. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Christina.
Yes, I don't have any questions and I can approve. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Kimberly.
Likewise, I don't have any further questions and I can support this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Elizabeth.
Yes, did I understand that you said to Michelle that you're using aluminum, not wood?
Not aluminum clad windows.
Excuse me?
Aluminum clad windows, not aluminum.
Clad with?
With wood.
Sorry, I can't understand. It's what clad? Wood clad?
Aluminum clad. So the core is aluminum. The clad is wood. The core is aluminum. So.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, Elizabeth. I think we might have Gail. Gail, go ahead. Okay, I still can't hear you, Gail. David? Okay. David, confirm unmuting.
I think the whole premise is wrong. I don't know why, when you have an opportunity to bring back the original windows, you wouldn't do that. I'm sure Warren and Wetmore had good reason, perhaps to have this building as an exception and not to do multi-pane windows. And quite frankly, when I look at the original, I'm sort of pleased with the way it looks. I'm happy with the way it works. And I would hate to think that the owner is going to put in double hungs that happen to be multi-pane, which I understand is part of the Neo-Georgian. And then the next thing you know, they raise the window and throw in an air conditioning unit. So personally, I would like the casement windows because it precludes air conditioning units. But most importantly, I would like it because I think it's bringing back the original design of the building. And I think we should be respectful of Warren and Wetmore. I think it was a good design. I think it was an exception to the rule in that day. But sometimes exceptions to the rule are the right thing to do. So I oppose this.
Thank you.
Jane?
Oh, thank you, Saida. I want to concur with what David just said about going back to the original windows. We also received an email today from Anthony Kahn. He cannot be with us tonight. but he also feels the windows as presented are totally inappropriate. There is an echo of what's known as modern French that are characteristic of the casement windows that Warren and Wetmore used as part of their original design. And I agree with him and with David that we should stick to the original historic windows. It's a very, very beautiful building, and throwing in the 6/6s that aren't even solid wood would really detract from the elegance of the Warren and Wetmore design. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I think we're ready for a resolution. I'm not sure how the vote is going to go. It may be that's an approval as presented. Do we want to start with that? Does anybody want to formulate a resolution? Elizabeth? Michelle?
Whatever, I agree on going back to the original, but I think that they worked very hard to bring this back to being a Georgian building. And I think we ought to recognize that effort in our resolution, because I think the building has had some, unfortunate changes. I think the current thing is neither original nor Georgian. And I think that this is a Georgian building, and they have looked into how you bring back a Georgian building. So I think one ought to recognize that they're halfway there. And I think that the materials has to be wood. The windows have to be wood. And I think they have to go back to the original, but I want to praise the effort they've done thus far. They're just not there yet.
Well, Elizabeth, are you proposing a resolution to disapprove or to approve?
Well, let's say we disapprove, but recognizing the excellent work they've done to move it toward the right resolution.
I don't know whether we want to go down that path, but I'm willing to accept that, Elizabeth. That we want to recognize the work the architect has done, but it's a disapproval. Is there a second for that?
I don't see any seconds. We have a second from Marco.
Okay, thank you. So I think this is a disapproval as presented. It may be that we'll revert back to an approval if depending on how the vote goes. So why don't you do the roll call vote, Saida, and we'll see what happens.
Okay. And Gail, if you're still unable to be unmuted and we can't hear you, just chat me your vote. And everyone else, confirm unmuting on your devices, please. Elizabeth?
Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Gail, if you're able to unmute. And I still can't hear you, so chat me your vote, please. Michelle?
Pass.
David?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
Marco?
Yes.
Christina?
Yes.
Kimberly?
No.
And let me see. Gail. Gail is a yes. Thank you, Gail. Michelle.
Yes.
Thank you.
So thank you. That seems as if it was a unanimous disapproval with the exception of Kimberly, who voted no on the disapproval. Thank you very
Correct.
much. I will make a note in the resolution that the architect has really worked hard within the constraints of the house. But it is a beautiful Warren and Wetmore house, and the casement windows add something that would be diminished if we went to 6/6s. So now, the second,
Jane, just to say it another way before you write the resolution, it's a very thoughtful set of window details. Unfortunately, it's the wrong premise.
okay, I'm writing that down. Details, unfortunately, the wrong premise. Thank you so much, David. We are now going to go to new business, which is the 5G tower situation within historic districts. Michelle was at the 3-hour meeting on last Wednesday night, as was I. I did not speak. Michelle spoke. It was a transportation committee meeting. There were 150 people on the Zoom call, and really a unanimous vote on the resolution that we didn't want to see these 5G towers anywhere on the Upper East Side. Tonight, we are here because apparently 5G towers within historic districts must first go to the LPC before approval is granted. So our mission is to come up with a resolution that I hope dovetails with the Transportation Committee resolution, but more specific to historic districts. We do not want to spend a lot of time on this because there was an endless discussion the other night. The applicant cannot present any real statistical evidence of why these are needed on the Upper East Side. It's all hearsay. With that, we can start our discussion, and maybe we'll start with Michelle since she was at the meeting the other night.
Michelle?
And David's going to handle the rest of the discussion. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks, Jane. Firstly, let me say the position that the board took was very, very strong. There was nobody in support of this. As a matter of background, however, you should know, and I sent this to the article to Will, and I think it'll be shown on screen at the full board meeting, but in the mayor's original press release, his statement about this whole project was that it was to be north of 96th Street and in the outer boroughs. So the fact that it was even presented to us where so many of these are within our district and of course below 96th Street was a big surprise to start with, because he specifically rolled the program out with that statement about its location. So we don't have any reason for why that happened. We also noted that everybody who was against was either against for historic district and Carnegie Hill district reasons in terms of all the aesthetics and everything that has to do with it. But also the one place in our district where we do need 5G, where there is less coverage than there should be, is in front of Stanley Isaacs and NYCHA, and that's the one place they did not include it. So what does that tell us? And that tells us that number one, this proposal is primarily for the advertising and for the revenue that they perceive this advertising could generate if it were on Park Avenue, Fifth Avenue, and Madison Avenue. The second thing that was of note, which was very, very perplexing to me and might give all of us some additional insight, is that they would not reveal who their providers are. Now we can assume it's Verizon, it's Time Warner, whoever it is. However, they would not state it. And so that raised a red flag for me as to, I wonder if stating it might have put them in breach of some kind of contract, which they don't yet have. I'm thinking for a reason why a company wouldn't tell us who the providers are. why they would want to keep that secret. To my mind, it could only be because they don't yet have the contract. And if they said they had the contract, they would be disingenuous. And if they don't have the contract, why don't they have the contract when they are stating that the reason they're doing this is because their providers have verified that they have interruption, excuse me, of services in this area? So if you're listening to just a few of these points, there's a lot of concern, to me anyway, about how forthright and forthcoming they were really being. What are the true motives? There was clearly a statement by the over 100 people that were there representing all parts of our district that in fact they have no need of the service. I verified that in places like Iceland, which has an ice surface all year round and very hard to penetrate, they in fact have buried all their network cables. And if this is so important everywhere, that perhaps we could do the same. And a lot of commentary was raised about this. If you have specific questions that bring something to my mind, I'm happy to answer. That's a little bit of an overview. From a historic district point of view, I know that Carnegie Neighbors had a meeting with them last night. Unfortunately, I was notified about it after it happened. But that was specifically to address why it should not be in a neighborhood with a historic, as a historic district. And that would be obvious to this committee. It's 3 stories high. There's nothing about the structure that relates with any design or aesthetic concept that we have on any of these avenues. There is some discussion about the health and safety of them being less than 10 feet from a window. And there have been incidences, there is one in this area already that's much closer than that to a bedroom window. So there's health concerns, which they would not address, even though there are some studies about the health concerns of this. But from our point of view, the aesthetics of it, considering there's no need, considering nobody wants it, considering they have not been as forthcoming as perhaps they could have been or should have been, considering that I think we do have an opportunity to weigh in and stifle this, because the fact that they wouldn't tell us about the providers tells me that maybe the contract with the city and them may be written in stone and that there is a contract. I'm not so sure that there's a contract between them and the providers. They wouldn't verify that. So for those and many, many other reasons, there was a unanimous disapproval. And I hope that happens at the full board. If you have any specific questions on something I might have missed, happy to address it. Thanks.
So let's go to Andrew Fine.
Hey guys, thank you for the moment of your time. I just want to say that these towers are nonsensical. They're unnecessary. They're ugly. 5G works everywhere. I have no problem with my cell phone. I mean, occasionally service goes in and out, but that's just the way cell phones work. The use of rooftops as a way to transmit cell signals has worked fine. I think the status quo is fine. And I don't think this is really a landmarks issue. I think it's just an issue of why should we have 32-foot tall towers towering into windows across the Upper East Side, whether it's in a historic district or not. It's just a really bad idea. I don't know what the, I don't know what's pushing this, but I just think it's a bad idea. It makes no sense. And they can easily accomplish the same results by just doing the status quo, putting it on the rooftop like they have the whole time. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Judy Schneider.
Good evening. I'm at Barry's computer, obviously. I was also at the transportation meeting. The health issue was brought up and spoke about extensively, and they did not answer any questions. I found that very troubling. Chuck, the chair of the Transportation Committee, found that troubling. I personally just think that these are the ugliest things I've ever seen, and to put them in a historic district, they just don't belong. I don't see why we can't wait a few years, and the longer they work on it, I'm sure they could design a pole that is far more, that will fit far better with the neighborhood, be maybe thinner, smaller, and work better. So I think the health issue and the fact that they're just downright ugly, we should pass a resolution saying no, or pass a resolution in agreement with the transportation resolution. I don't know how you handle that, David.
Well, the transportation resolution happens to be very comprehensive and actually includes the landmarks issue. So we'll have to consider how we might want to support that resolution. And I don't think we can write it as a group tonight, but we can decide if we want to have a resolution in support of the transportation resolution. Also, I would just ask that we, for the most part, try to stay within appropriateness and context, because that's what the landmarks committee is about.
If you want to talk about appropriate, I think they're totally inappropriate in the landmark area.
Thank you.
That's my personal opinion. Thank you.
All right, Sue Moss.
Hi there, my name is Sue Moss. I'm actually the Democratic District Leader for the 73rd AD, and I actually have a question in addition to thanking everyone on this committee for all the good work that you do. The question is, what are the actual landmark requirements for a public communication structure in a historic district? I've been trying to look that up, and I found the rules of the City of New York Landmarks Preservation Commission, Title 63. Those rules have certain height requirements, which these kiosks obviously don't follow, and other requirements as well, although there can be a waiver from the LPC if after a fair hearing. So since you guys are the experts and we're so thankful that you're here, does anyone know what the requirements are for having such PCSs in a historic district?
Other than what you shared with us, I don't know, Jane, if you have any.
No, I admire you for trying to figure it out, but thank you for coming to our meeting.
And Marco, you are an expert in a lot of city regulations.
David, I don't have no idea. They don't regulate outside of the building departments, is inside of the lot line. Or the lot line. Outside.
Don't mean to put anybody on the spot.
No, but thank you for asking. Thank you.
Michelle, you can go ahead. You're also unmuted.
Oh, I'm unmuted. Well, one thing that we all know, I think, is that the screens, the advertising screens, because that's not permitted on the sidewalk in historic districts. So if you're looking for additional regulations, and while they made a statement that they would not use the screens where it was only residential, number one, I'm not sure we can hold them to that, but the item itself does include a screen. And as a matter of fact, one of the main objection of Matt Bauer of the Madison Avenue bid was how those screens will compete with the advertising in the stores, and that a store could not put an electronic sign on the street. So that's certainly one of the things under consideration. As to height, I'm not really sure. And if it doesn't say it anywhere that you can find it, so maybe Matt Bauer would know more about that, but certainly the lights, in terms of signage.
So we have Robert Mayer and Sharon Zimmer.
We also have Lo.
Oh, I'm sorry. Lo would be next. Correct.
Go ahead, Lo. Lo?
Oh, okay. This is Lo Vandervalk speaking. I'm speaking on behalf of Carnegie Hill Neighbors. We spoke at the Transportation Committee meeting as well. And Carnegie Hill Neighbors is adamantly against these towers. And I think Michelle has made a lot of very relevant points. I think going back about 15 years ago, the predecessor organization of OTI was proposing to replace phone booths with new phone booths that would have advertising on them. And the Landmarks Commission took the position, okay, you can install the new phone booths, but you cannot have advertising. And as a consequence, they didn't follow through with any of it. So, but this is, of course, a different case. Landmarks will very likely say you can't have screens advertising, as Michelle pointed out. That's against the rules for the Landmarks Commission. It would be out of context. And without the screens, however, that's only one source of revenue, and that's concerning because the towers themselves will be most likely leased out, and because so many of them are clumped together in a very small area, they must be seeking. And that's an assumption. But they must be seeking revenue, and therefore they need the towers for the revenue. So even without the screens, they would want the towers. And so it's not an easy fix just to say no screens in historic districts. Now we come to the towers themselves. They are unsightly, and they are not in context with a historic district. I'm sure that they will not be permitted in front of individual landmarks, but but the jury is still out how landmarks will decide on the current situation. Interestingly enough, because most of these in the proposal are in a historic district of one kind or another, except for I think only 3 of the 18 were not in the historic district. The requirements for historic districts are also regulated by the federal government. And that was made clear to me and to many of you by Odette Wilkins, who I'm glad to see will comment this evening. And so therefore, this becomes a federal issue, actually. And so that needs to be further looked into after we get the landmarks hurdle. But I think that it'd be very hard to make the case that these towers by themselves are contextual with the historic district and acceptable. And that's quite apart from all the health issues that are behind the scenes and that are denied and that are legally not permissible. But those are our concerns, and those will be our arguments. And remember, for the federal, they have to prove that there is a need, and I don't think they have proven that there is a need. And then second of all, they have to prove that what they're proposing is the minimum required to meet their objective. And if their objective is disallowed, then the minimum would be no towers. But that's sort of Aristotelian logic, if you will. Okay, I think I've said sufficient on this, and thank you very much for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Lo. And next is Robert Mayer and Sharon Zimmer. We can't hear you.
You have to confirm unmuting on your device. You should see a prompt. There you go.
Thank you for summarizing all of these concerns of why we're all against it. I'm at 1105 Park Avenue. One of the things that I believe was mentioned in the last meeting in terms of the safety, particularly for towers that are going to be quite near a residential building, is people congregating to charge phones. And it's hard enough when you have like a crowd in front of a building, but it seems that the locations would encourage this, and that could be a problem in addition to all of the ones that you mentioned. So I just wanted to add that in this summary.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Odette Wilkins.
Confirm unmuting, Odette. There you go.
All right, thank you very much. Yes, I'm Odette Wilkins, and I'm President and General Counsel of Wired Broadband. We are actually located in Forest Hills, but I did weigh in on the discussion in CB8 last week.
Can you tell us again the company?
Wired Broadband. It's a 501c3 nonprofit, and it's specifically to handle this issue. We started up 2 years ago because we already saw that this was going to be a problem in New York City. Just to underscore what Michelle was saying, 5G depends on fiber optics. You cannot have 4G or 5G without fiber optics, which means that the fiber optics goes straight to the pole, goes up the pole, and as opposed to having the extra 10 yards or 10 feet or whatever to reach the building, they're putting wireless antennas there. They could just as easily extend those fiber optics and go straight into the building, so you have fiber optics to and through the premises. Now, fiber optics is far superior than wireless. Wireless is an inferior service. And former FCC Chair Tom Wheeler, under the Obama administration, is now testifying in Congress saying that we should have a fiber first policy and wireless only as a last resort. Fiber can provide symmetrical download and upload speeds of 1 gig up to 10 gigs even. Wireless cannot do that. And also the 5G is very insecure, and it's not cyber secure. Fiber optics is, and it's much faster and it's much more reliable. The other thing I wanted to talk about is what Lo had suggested, and that had to do with the federal requirements. There was a very sweeping decision that came down in New York in this past July. And that was in the Extenet versus Flower Hill case. Extenet was suing Flower Hill, guess what, for not approving 18 installations of 5G. Somehow 18 seems to be the talismanic number. The court was very clear in stating that despite the FCC rule stripping local governments of any ability to determine the number and placement of cell towers, he says that is not applicable in New York jurisdictions. In New York jurisdictions, it is what the Second Circuit determines what the Telecommunications Act states, and that's the federal law that governs the placement of these towers. And that is, one, there has to be a significant gap in phone service, not internet connectivity, not capacity, just phone service. And the second thing is that they have to use the least intrusive means possible. Here, they have not only have they not established a gap in service, they are not able to produce a report that indicates a gap in service when they were specifically requested to do so. The second thing is they're using the most intrusive means possible by placing these right outside people's windows. Now, in terms of the health concerns, T-Mobile, the German company, the German parent company of T-Mobile, commissioned a study back in 2000 by scientists from the University of Hanover. And they formed the Ecolog Institute. The Ecolog Institute came out with a study back in 2000 that stated health hazards, immunological disorders, cardiac disorders, neurological disorders, cancer, leukemia, testicular cancer, the works. And so they were cautioning that there should be a precautionary principle used, particularly with respect to children, and that children and the elderly should not be exposed to this at all. Not only that, but the IARC, which is the International Agency for Research on Cancer by the WHO, came out with a designation back in 2011 that wireless radiation, and they didn't even have 5G at the time or even 4G, wireless radiation as of 2011 was classified as a 2B possible carcinogen. Now, the very scientists, some of the scientists who were sitting on that working committee are now calling for it to be a known human carcinogen. So the T-Mobile report was quashed, and it was leaked out by, I guess, from somebody from T-Mobile, and it was translated from German to English, and that report has been circulating. So the industry themselves know the biological hazards. The problem is that they are getting cover by the FCC because the FCC has put together or promulgated a rule that protects 5G as if it is preempted under federal law. It is not preempted under federal law. 5G is not protected under the law. And that is exactly the sweeping decision that came out from the ExteNet versus Flower Hill decision in New York. And the judge said, it may be great, it may be profitable, it may be greater capacity, but it is not protected under the Telecommunications Act. That is what OTI was not saying at the meeting last week. The other thing you should know is that there have been 2 decisions against the FCC by the DC Circuit Court of Appeals, just underneath the Supreme Court. In 2019, an Indian tribe and others were suing the FCC because the FCC gave a categorical exemption to 5G as not requiring environmental review, despite the almost 1 million 5G deployments that the FCC was contemplating. The court decided against them, and they also said that they violated the National Housing Preservation Act. In 2021, just last year, the FCC lost again to the DC Circuit Court of Appeals, and they were being sued by a number of organizations, including the Environmental Health Trust. And they said that their FCC emission standards that date back to 1996 had to be remanded back to the FCC because of the FCC's failure to consider 11,000 pages of scientific studies and personal accounts of biological harm.
I don't want to interrupt, but again, you're getting off topic for us. It's good
Yeah,
background. It's good background, but we are strictly focused on appropriateness and context within the historic district.
Absolutely.
And everything you said was probably more appropriate for the prior Transportation Committee meeting. So I can't let you just keep on going.
Okay, no, that's perfectly fine. That's all I had to say. I just wanted to comment on what had been said before. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle?
Oh, I just wanted to make a point. When you were talking about people congregating outside of 1100, I think it was, to charge phones. Actually, when the Lynx kiosk was installed on 86th Street, people gathered round for hours at a time to watch movies. So that is another factor. The other thing is on Park Avenue in particular, which is all, well, and Fifth, which is all residential. We don't really have people wandering by as you would in a commercial district because they're there for other reasons. They're shopping, they're strolling, they're window shopping, whatever. We have people that are usually going to and from their homes in one way or another, so that people who live here will not necessarily have a reason to stop and recharge their phone because they'll be not too far from their own homes. That's more of an issue for Madison, where people might be wandering up and down and need to stop and charge. So in a residential street like Park, up and down the avenue, literally from 59th or 60th up to 96, there is really no commercial entity. There's an occasional dry cleaner. We have no need at all. And that's equally true on Fifth Avenue. There is no need. And on Madison Avenue, which would put it aesthetically, they face the same barrier to it as Park and Fifth. They don't have a problem. So for that reason alone, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I just wanted to make a mention of something at the Landmarks Commission. I hate to say this in a public forum, but I love them as I do and love the director as I do. I'm not sure we can hang our hats on what we think their decision may or may not be for a specific location. They are, remember, appointed by the mayor. And that's why what's very important to know is the mayor's position. And that's why this is so concerning, because the mayor, in a written press release, with which Saida, you actually have it at the office. I don't know how easy it is for you to screen share it. I sent it to Will to be shared at the Wednesday meeting, but the mayor came right out and said that this is only for above 96th Street in Manhattan and locations in the outer boroughs. So what changed, I'm not sure. And who had the authority to change it, I'm not sure. So those are the comments I wanted to make. Anyway, so I'm a little worried about the Landmarks Commission if the mayor ends up being for this. Thank you.
Okay, Jane,
I think it's time to formulate a resolution. As David keeps pointing out, we're here for context and appropriateness within historic districts. And I don't want us to spend a lot of time on the technical aspects. That was discussed for 3 hours the other night. So don't you think, David, it's time to go to a resolution?
I agree with you. There was only one other person who wanted to say something, and if Ira Zecker can make it quick, I think we should give him the courtesy.
Okay.
Confirm and muting, Ira. You should see a problem.
Yes, thank you. And I want to thank the committee for listening to us. I'm the president of the board at 1050 Fifth Avenue. And talking about the health issues that 5G may cause, I think the health issues of our shareholders, our 85 shareholders, worrying about this for the last 72 hours is equally troubling. So my concern is that the building was not notified of this decision. And looking at some items on the internet, I found a night ago or 2 nights ago, the exact location of where this tower is expected to go at 1050 Fifth Avenue. And it's right on Fifth Avenue, literally 10 feet from the front door of our building. Now the question I'd like to ask the commission is, I note that on the 88th Street and Fifth Avenue tower, and at the 62nd Street and Fifth Avenue tower, they're both selected to go on the west side of Fifth Avenue. That's on the park side of Fifth Avenue. And I was wondering what your commission's view is if we have these monstrosities lining Fifth Avenue, if they're on the west side of Fifth Avenue, on the promenade adjoining the park, as opposed to in front of someone's window in a residential building.
Okay. Well, we're not here to, comment on your comment, but we'll take it into consideration in the resolution and in what we bring to Landmarks. Michelle?
I appreciate it.
Michelle, are you going to formulate a resolution?
Yes. So what I would like to say is that the Landmarks Committee wholly supports the Transportation Committee's resolution with, I'd like a couple of with a couple of additional remarks specifically relevant to these historic districts. So I don't know if you, David, you and Jane want to pull out just a couple of things that happened in the course of our commentary, and Lowe's comments maybe that specifically refer to a historic district that maybe wasn't specifically enough included in the resolution by the Transportation Committee. But we should be very clear that, yeah, I can think of a few that you might want to add. And that is that not only are these historic districts city historic districts, but that they are also state and national. They're on the city, state, and national registers of historic places. So I would certainly include that with additional commentary that there are very strict guidelines or precedents for appropriateness, and these polls conform to none of them. We also have, I think, don't we also have individually landmarked buildings? Some on Park, Madison, and Fifth. Isn't that a landmark building that used to be the fine art, the art museum? Where the gallery took over. I'm blanking on what it's called.
Oh, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
You know which one I mean. Isn't that an individual historic district, a historic building?
I actually don't remember, Michelle. I know
I
what
don't
you're talking
remember.
about.
But at any rate, we can do a little research, and if there are some on Park, Madison, or Fifth in these areas, we can add that by saying, in addition, they're historic. There is one on the corner of 85th and Park. That's an individual landmark, and that's a block and a half away from the proposed one on the west side of 86th and Park. I think we can make enough of a case, and anything that you and Jane would like to add to this. So
Well,
with that said, is there a second?
We have a second from Marco.
Okay.
basically, the resolution is going to be in support of the Transportation Committee resolution with certain specific clauses that will relate more directly to the landmarks districts and individual landmark buildings. Okay, with that said, I think we can vote. Saida?
Oh, 1 second. Everyone, again, confirm unmuting on your devices. Elizabeth? Oh,
yes.
Okay. Michelle?
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry, Gail. Gail, confirm unmuting. And you might have to chat me again. Thank you. Marco?
Yes.
Jane?
Yes.
David?
Yes.
Kimberly?
Yes.
And Judy?
Yes.
Christina?
Christina stepped away.
Ah.
Thank you. Unanimous approval.
Okay. Jane, back to you.
Is there a move to adjourn?
We have a
Michelle?
move to adjourn. Michelle, I would only say if you have suggestions, just send me an email, please.
Will do.
We'll see everybody on Wednesday night, and thank you so much for all of you who attended tonight.
Hey, have a good night, everyone. Bye.
Good night. Thank you.